Well, I think the biggest mistake that people make, it's amazing to me that they really don't know what their point of difference is. And so they can't exploit it. And they're the ones that come to you and say, I've gone through 3 agencies in the last 2 years. They can't get it done. Everybody is just, all these agencies are just terrible. And you say, well, there's a reason for that. Let's talk about it. And then you start getting involved, or you start interviewing them, and you realize there's just no point of difference. And you say, okay, well, put it in an agency's perspective. What am I going to do? What am I going to say in an ad that's going to attract attention? Your popcorn is better because. So if you came out with Skinny Pop, I would say, okay, yeah, we can do something with that, right? If you came out with like a high protein popcorn, okay, I can do something with that. But if you're just telling me that you have flavored popcorn, what's going to happen? People are going to search and they're going to find your product and your competitor's product. You're not going to know who it is, why they came to you. They're not going to remember who they bought from. We've had a number of brands come to us, and it's just amazing to me. So that's the first thing, knowing about yourself, what your point of difference is.
You're listening to Brainwork Framework, a business and marketing podcast, brought to you by Focus-Biz.com.
Welcome back to another episode. With us today is the founder and CEO of CrunchGrowth, Phil Masiello. CrunchGrowth is a revenue growth agency built by operators and not theorists. They help brands like in the personal care, beauty space, food, and beyond grow faster, more profitably, and with clarity. So excited to have you on. Phil, how you doing today?
Great, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Phil, we always like to ask our entrepreneurs, tell us about the journey. What were you doing before that kind of led you into what you're doing now?
Yeah. Well, I'll take it all the way back down memory lane. I founded my first business when I was 27. It was a complete disaster, failure of leadership, failure of process management. The actual business was solid, but the way it was operating was terrible. I was just not as good as I thought I was. And I sold it. Not that I'm a quitter, but after about 3 years, I realized there was a problem, needed to be solved, or I was never going to be successful in anything. And I sold it, and then I went to graduate school down in Maryland. I was in New York, and I didn't go to graduate school because I thought I needed more education. I went because I thought I needed to think differently. And while I was down there, I made a small investment in a small company in Washington, D.C. called Sutton Place Gourmet, which had 2 stores, retail stores. And then I helped grow that company to 12 stores, and I did a lot of entrepreneurial things, set them up with a website, set up a whole gift division, worked with the CEO and the board to put the book together, to raise capital, because we did a couple of acquisitions. So it was really a good place for me to learn true leadership, true process management. After we exited that business, we sold it. I started a company called The Daily Market down in DC, which were grab-and-go meal stores, smaller than we were doing with Sutton Place. And that worked out really well. And we built a e-commerce site off of it, and one of the first food sites, meal sites at the time. And we caught a lot of attention at the time with anybody doing anything in e-commerce. And we caught the attention of a major supermarket chain. And they didn't want us because of the stores. They wanted us because of the website. They wanted to turn that into their home shopping platform. And so, they made the acquisition. I wound up working for them for a couple of years, did not like it, was not a good employee, did not understand politics. They were a $3 billion company, did not understand the silo mentality, did not understand not being focused on customers. And, it was different. And so, but I did what I had to do. And then I left and I founded a business with a woman named Carol Raw Essentials. It was a beauty brand. And we were the first raw beauty line out there. And we launched it on the shopping channels, HSN in particular in Florida, shopping channel in Canada. And then we grew from there. We wound up in retail, Ulta Beauty, Sephora. We were one of the first brands on Amazon when they opened up the platform to products other than movies, CDs, books, etc. back in 2000. And we scaled quite well. And we had a lot of fun, traveled around constantly doing shows, and really learned the power of video selling and the power of scripting, which is very relevant today. And then after a number of years, we wound up exiting that company. While we had that company, I had this idea to do a women's shaving line out of it, because we had this great shave cream that our product developer did. And we went to the number 2 razor company in the world, Schick, and said, can we get a razor? And they said, we like that idea. We don't know anything about direct to consumer, so we'd love to partner with you. It's going to take about a year for us to develop a razor for you. So that's fine. But during that time, we wound up selling the company to a division of Johnson & Johnson. But I went to them and said, look, we sold, but I'm still interested in doing it, but now I want to do it for men and women. And our focus was really on the shave, the ultimate shave, using, pre-shave, post-shave, all these things to really enhance the shave. Because when you study shaving, the razor is just a part of it. It's all these other routines that you have to do. And so we did launch that brand, and we had Michael Phelps on the board, and we had John Scully on the board, and, all these people that were really smart and helped us along. But things weren't going well in the first year. It was slow, and we couldn't figure out why things weren't happening. And what I did was, about a year into it, we were just all struggling. We were all a bit frustrated. One morning I woke up and I was reading sports like I always do, and I saw that Brian Wilson, who was this pitcher for the San Francisco Giants, had an epic beard, and Major League Baseball hated it. They used to fine him all the time, and he had gotten injured, had Tommy John surgery. They traded him to the Dodgers. First time he was going to pitch in a year. I sent a message to his people, and I said, I'll pay him $1 million to shave with our razor. And it just exploded, because at that point, I had enough to say that we were in discussions with Brian Wilson to shave his beard. So our PR firm pushed it out. People were outraged at us. They were pissed that we would offer a guy who's already a millionaire $1 million. People were sending us pictures on social media. I'll shave this for $5,000. I'll shave this for $10,000. And all the sports guys wanted to interview us. And so that really launched us and got sales, but it also got us noticed because Dollar Shave Club hit the market. Harry's hit the market. Everybody wanted to be in the shaving business all of a sudden. And it just was like, why? But we had something that nobody else could have, which was an American-made razor made by one of the big two. And so we wound up selling. The board said, hey, you guys should take this offer. We wound up selling. And after that, I was sort of bummed out because in my head, I had a path of things I wanted to accomplish. But again, I didn't have control. And so what happened was Energizer called me up and said, we need somebody, we need some help. We don't know anything about direct to consumer. We don't build websites for consumers. Our websites are B2B. We sell to supermarkets, drug, etc. Can you help us? I said, sure, I'm not a consultant, but they said, we don't want a consultant. We want somebody who can put structure around it and do it and actually be our executing partner. We don't want our customers to know that we're behind it because it will aggravate them. So we already sell to Amazon, but we don't sell on Amazon. So we started doing that. And that was the foundation for CrunchGrowth, because I never planned to be in an agency, and we sort of fell into that, and we started going from there. And then we just started taking on other clients, and we're very picky about who we work with, because we want to make sure we only work with brands. First of all, we don't work with sellers. We don't work with people with a selling mentality. One of the first questions we ask is, why is your product different? And if you just tell us it's better is not really a thing, right? You could be different and better. Better is subjective, right? Nobody's going to know. You're going to be spending your life telling your story about why you're better. You have to have something that's different, and then we can help you, because we can exploit that. But if you're just a regular person who white labeled some product that you found from some manufacturer, I don't want anything to do with it. I mean, 1 million people come to us with those silly gummies, the bear-shaped gummies. They're all buying them from the same manufacturer in Los Angeles. And we go, everybody's got this product. There's 1,000 guys on Amazon. So you might as well just price yours as low as possible and go out there, because that's all you can do.
Right.
So we want to focus on products that are different and unique and help those brands grow.
It makes sense because you don't want to waste your time or their time as well. So it's about finding that right fit. If a client isn't a good fit for you, it's just not going to work out. It's in everyone's best interest. But quite an incredible journey. You are quite the pioneer. You're kind of getting in at the ground level, innovating here, bringing something that's new and fresh to the market that hasn't been seen before. Now it's become sought after.
Yeah,
That's incredible.
Yeah, sometimes.
It really is.
I did a speech for an entrepreneur group a couple of weeks ago, and I said, I founded 10 businesses in my lifetime. And everybody goes, oh, wow, 10 businesses. I said, only 4 are successful. The other 6 are not. I didn't talk about those along the way, but they were things that I got involved in that I shouldn't have gotten involved in, like fashion and some other things. But I'm okay with it because, A, I've learned a lot, about what I shouldn't do. But B, I look at the greatest batters in baseball, and if you're batting .330, you're a star. So I figure I'm batting .400, so I'm okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. When you put it in comparison like that, and there are many entrepreneurs who, again, start multiple businesses. None of them work. Some of them work. All of them work. It's kind of up in the air. but I think it really goes down to the product or service that you're offering, that uniqueness, what that differentiation, like you mentioned, but the execution, because great ideas are plentiful, but it's really the execution. How can you get it done? Who's in touch with the audience and understands what they want and need? And you address a lot of those problems with the solutions that you offer.
I'm glad you brought that up because I was at this investor conference for startups last week, and a couple of VCs were presenting, and they were getting questions like, "What do you look for?" And two of them said the same thing: "We would rather invest in an A team with a B product than a B team with an A product because an A team can get it done."
Wow.
I thought that was powerful.
Absolutely. And specifically when it comes to business and product growth, there's a lot of mistakes that people make along the way, either from your personal experience or just from what you've seen around the world. What are some of the mistakes that these brands are making when they're trying to create their growth strategy?
Well, I think the biggest mistake that people make, it's amazing to me that they really don't know what their point of difference is. And so they can't exploit it. And they're the ones that come to you and say, "I've gone through 3 agencies in the last 2 years. They can't get it done. Everybody is just, all these agencies are just terrible." And you say, "Well, there's a reason for that. Let's talk about it." And then you start getting involved, or you start interviewing them, and you realize there's just no point of difference. And you say, "Okay, well, put it in an agency's perspective. What am I going to do? What am I going to say in an ad that's going to attract attention? Your popcorn is better because." So if you came out with skinny pop, I would say, "Okay, yeah, we can do something with that," right? If you came out with like a high protein popcorn, okay, I can do something with that. But if you're just telling me that you have flavored popcorn, you know what's going to happen? People are going to search and they're going to find your product and your competitor's product. You're not going to know who it is, why they came to you. They're not going to remember who they bought from. We've had a number of brands come to us, and it's just amazing to me. So that's the first thing, knowing about yourself, what your point of difference is. And the second big mistake that I see people make is not paying enough attention to the customer, not understanding really who's going to buy your product. Because again, VCs and yourself, right? You don't really have a market product fit until you have people who are buying your product over and over again. So don't tell me about your minimum viable product, right? Don't tell me about your beta testing, because beta testing is free. People don't care. But when you can get people to buy your product and buy it more than once, then you have a product. Then you have something to talk about. So those two things, I think, are the foundations that people miss when they're trying. And then the other piece is trying to scale too quickly. Everybody thinks just because I sold 100 units this week, now I'm going to go out and get private equity, I'm going to get money, and I'm going to just put it behind this thing and scale it. But how do you know where you're going to put the money? How do you know what channels are working? How do you know where to find your customer? You haven't done enough research into your customer to know. And then what's the story you're going to tell? The three of them are really intertwined, but they're really the fundamentals before you can do anything, before you can move forward. Those are the three things you really have to nail down.
Absolutely. And it's funny, as you were describing this, I was thinking most of this relates to kind of the conversion piece of the buyer's journey, but really it is all encompassing. This is your top of funnel as well. Because when you're putting, like you said, the creative copy out there, what sets you apart, what's different about it, that is directly related to that top level organic search where people find out about it. What has been your experience? Because there's been a huge shift in SEO, search engine optimization, with the introduction of large language models, the chat GPTs. Now there's a new shift. So now there's GEO, now there's AEO. What can you tell us about it? What's happening in the market? Where can businesses kind of focus their attention? Is SEO dead?
I wouldn't say SEO is dead, but I will say that there's a lot of garbage out there. There's just a ton of AI trash out there, and a lot of people that never did anything, that don't really understand it, that's all of a sudden became AI experts. About
Preach.
9 months ago, yeah, we started noticing on a couple of our clients that they were getting traffic and orders through Gemini search, Perplexity, ChatGPT search, whatever. And, when you think about it, right, when you set up a site, you set up your Google Analytics, your Search Console, your Merchant Center, you set up all these things to link into your site. So Google's pulling and pushing all this information. But we don't have that with ChatGPT. So you sort of have to create it. But you also have to understand how ChatGPT search or Perplexity search or Gemini search work. And the best way that I can show you, or that anybody can go and look, is to look at how Amazon handle it. It's still building, right? They have Cosmo, which is the algorithm, which has taken over the A9 algorithm, and it's more AI search. And then they have Rufus, which is the answer engine, the thing that people are searching for. The funny thing is that in their quarter three statements that just came out, Amazon says that sales are 60% higher for those searching on Rufus. And the reason for it is because Rufus is handing them a more finite result for what their search is. AI search is more focused on what's the intent of the person searching. What are they looking for? It's not keyword driven anymore. It's not search term driven. You have to put in, there's all this information on the back end of Amazon when you build a product now that talks about who is this made for? What are they using it for? How are they using it? And Rufus and Cosmo are able to take that. So you say to yourself, okay, well, let's just take that logic and move it onto websites. So when we do, everybody builds an FAQ page, but when you really look at FAQ pages, there's really nothing in there, right? It's like, oh, why is my product better than your product, right? So you have to really think about how you build FAQs and in a different way, get that information onto your product pages so that when you're getting searched by AI search, you're answering the questions that a customer would look for. So the best way that I can tell somebody to start is to go and just search what are the 15, 20 most frequently asked questions about shaving, right? About electric razors or about whatever, women's razors. Take those 15 or 20, boil them down, and start to restructure your pages. But then there's more to it because there's things on the technical side that you have to do to get it into AI search. And that's where people like us come in that know how to get it in there because there is no direct link. So the first place you want to do it is sort of restructure your content. And again, this has to go back to understanding your customer and understanding what they're looking for. They're not searching for keywords, right? They're searching for, how am I going to use this product? This is the problem I'm trying to solve. And that's the fundamental of any business, right? You start a business, I'm solving a problem. So what's the problem I'm solving? And so you take it from there and you just extrapolate it out. And then you have to push that information into all the AI search engines. And that's technical. There's things you have to do on the metadata, JSON, things like that to get that in there so that it's flowing properly. But we learned a lot of it we saw it happening on WooCommerce, Shopify, Magento sites. But then we learned a lot because we do a lot of work on Amazon. We learned a lot on what we were changing on Amazon that we were seeing results from, and we just brought that over.
Wow, that is fascinating. But it's experience backed by data. You're actually seeing the results. You're seeing the referrals, the direct sales that are coming from this. And I agree where Google search has always been search intent based. However, these LLMs understand the context of why and what is this for. So the fact that you can put that data into your product pages and just extrapolate so that way, yes, it is sent over to the right places so it can be searchable and indexable. That way, the search queries that come up, it's providing that direct answer. And it's fascinating. Less options, less choices when these LLMs are providing the direct answer.
Yeah, it's always been intent search, but it's been intent based on keywords. And now you're saying it's really intent based on knowledge, right? It's intent based on usage. It's intent based on how the customer is going to use it and what problem are they trying to solve. So yeah, it's to me, it's extremely interesting. And you're 100% right. We learned it by trying it. Some of these guys are out there. I mean, you look at the ads on Meta and you think, oh my God, anybody doing business with this person, I feel so sorry for them because they're just getting robbed, you know?
Yeah, and I don't think it's the business's fault. This is Meta pushing their AI algorithm, their editor. They're changing things, hoping that they can be better or do things better than our own ad creative, the marketing agencies that are out here, building and supporting creatives. But I don't know if the AI is quite there yet.
Yeah, don't get me started on Meta and ads and all that. I'm not a fan, but you're 100% right. Look, we've tested and we've been working with AI for about 7 years in our agency and doing different things. And I love AI. I love it for large amounts of data and analyzing it in a very clear and concise and fast way. I love it for ideation. I love it for all kinds of things. But we've tested every single system out there for building ads. And okay, if you're an industrial company, I can see it working. If you're a real estate company, I can see it working. Okay, consumer products, which is the world that we live in, it does not work. And the reason it does not work and will never work is because consumers today want to build a connection with your brand. They want to know who you are, why you built this brand, what problem are you solving for me? And AI driven ads like that are just so inauthentic. You hook up this system to your website and we'll take your images and then we put this swirl around them and the product moves. Okay, great, but that's not going to sell my product. But what's going to sell my product is talking to customers and explaining why my product's different and having some voice where somebody doing it whose voice doesn't match up with what they're saying isn't doing it either. So, I love technology. I love AI, but I'm sorry, it's just not there yet.
I agree. Yeah, AI is a great tool. It's constantly improving and learning, but we do have to be real with ourselves and just realize when is a good time, when is a good use case, what is the context for using AI. It can be great in many cases, but it's just not there yet. Maybe one day. However, I feel like it hurts the trust with a lot of consumers and brands when they see some AI slop and garbage put together. It feels like there's a lack of care. Like, hey, we're willing to put anything out there.
It's these guys that, people get talked into it. You think about a small company that started out, they're working on tight budgets. They don't really understand it. And then you got some guy who runs an ad saying, I'm an AI expert. Look at this ad that I built with AI and I can do this for you for $10 an ad. And they go, okay, I'll give it a shot, but it doesn't do anything. And then the guy takes their money. He signs them a 3-month or a 6-month contract. They're stuck for 3 to 6 months. It's not healthy and it really aggravates me, but there's nothing I can do about it. It's almost like the Amazon hype from years ago where everybody was like, oh, you pay us $5,000. We'll give you a course and teach you how to make $1 million on Amazon. And all those poor people got burned. And it's just the manufacturer's like, we'll white label our product for you and you can start selling tomorrow. Okay, you know who makes money in that scenario? The guy selling you the product.
Mm-hmm.
So I get emotional about it. I get aggravated about it because I don't like ripping people off. I never did. And it feels like people are just getting scammed and it just drives me insane.
Right. It is incredibly frustrating and it definitely hurts you and your brand because now people are associating that type of work or those type of results or promises with maybe the work that you do. And it's important that you're differentiating yourself saying, hey, I don't relate to that because it just doesn't fit you about your brand. And you're trying to work together with brands who have that similar mindset.
Yeah, it's no different than anything, right? Because we do AI, we do promote to our clients that we do AI search, GEO, AEO, whatever you want to call it. We do it on Amazon. And then you go, I tried, I had a company, I worked on it for 3 months and it was a disaster. Yeah, well, they're not us. And so then you sort of have to prove yourself. I just don't. I go, look, we have 5-star reviews everywhere. We've been in business for 12 years. We've got some big name clients and they've been with us for 12 years. You think they do it because we're scam artists or,
Right.
I mean, look at who you're buying from. This is a guy in the Netherlands who a month ago was selling real estate and now he's an AI expert because he learned how to do ChatGPT. It's not the same.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Absolutely. Now you've shared your displeasure with Meta and Google Ads. Many of us feel similarly. I wanted to ask, are there any other channels that drive better growth? You had mentioned earlier connected TV, CTV. Tell me more about that.
yeah, we do a tremendous amount of CTV ads and it's really funny. I'll tell you a story in a second, but connected TV is when I was in the shaving business and even with Raw, we did television ads. In addition to doing shopping channel work, we did television ads and it used to drive me crazy because you get the buying groups that come in and go, oh, we're going to spend $8 million over the next year. And we're going to place the razors on sports channels and this and that, because that's where the customer is. And then you go, okay, well, how do we track the results? Well, we're going to talk about impressions. We're going to talk about this. I don't care about impressions. I want to see conversions, right? And so it used to frustrate me. And then I wound up firing the ad buying agency and I did it myself because I talked to this guy and who was in the direct response TV world. And he said to me, don't listen to them. He said, it's all about spot cost, right? And so I used to get Fox Sports 2 and spots for $30 for 30 minutes or 30 seconds or, $50 for a minute. I can't remember, but off hours and stuff. And I put some money behind it and I started getting results because at $50, I only had to sell two conversions, right? And I started getting better at that. So I said, so he was right. And So now with connected TV, the beauty of it is you're dealing with it through the demand side platform. So programmatically, but you have to know who your customer is. You have to really understand. If you don't understand who your customer is, then we're going to tell you don't spend a dime until you do. So you figure out exactly who your customer is, because now think about the world of connected TV. I don't care where you are. I don't care if you're doing it on your phone, your iPad. I don't care if you're on your TV set. Everybody is logged in, right? Netflix pulls it up. You have a family account. Who's watching? Phil or Bob, or you push Phil. So now they know Phil is watching this show. So what does that tell you? Well, that tells you that they know who Phil is, what Phil buys, because they know everything about Phil. They know everything about what the products I like, all this stuff. So now I can deliver an ad directly to Phil. So you think about it this way. You and I, two different people, we could be sitting in the same exact room watching the same exact show on a Netflix or Paramount or NBC, ABC, doesn't matter. You're going to get delivered a different ad than I'm going to get delivered. So the chances of converting are much higher. But more importantly, I know who Phil is. I know where Phil is. I can retarget Phil directly online after I run the spots on TV. So
Wow.
now I'm following Phil everywhere. I can put QR codes on those spots. I can do all kinds of things to track Phil. I know when he watched, what he did. I know where he went after he watched, if he went to the website, because now I've got tracking on all this. So it's so much better. And the costs have come down so dramatically that if you're spending $15,000 a month or $20,000 a month on Meta ads or Google ads, I'm going to come to you and say, peel 50% of that off and let's run connected TV. And I guarantee you we'll get a 4X or a 5X return, and it'll be so much better. And you'll get national recognition. And we're not talking about, just silly shows. It can be on anywhere. It could be NBC, ABC. It could be in any sports channel, any sports game. So connected TV is exactly what it says. You're connected to whatever you're watching, wherever you're watching it.
Wow, that is fascinating. And just the evolution of marketing and data and analytics as we kind of continue within marketing, just the strategies that are changing. What has been surprising about the data that you've received? Is it based on, oh, wow, literally almost every consumer is visiting the website at least 5 times, or it's always on a Thursday at 5 p.m. because for some unknown reason? Has there been any data that kind of, stood out to you?
Yeah, there's always something every week that stands out and you go, oh, that's pretty funny that we had more men watching during so-and-so, or when some show launches on Netflix and you think it's going to be mostly women and it turns out to be mostly men, like this, something about lightning that launched on Netflix. And you think it's probably going to be mostly men watching it. Turns out to be it's 90% women and stuff like that. So we see, every week there's something funny, but when you really think about it and you analyze it, it dawns on you as to why. And then you can take that understanding, because to me, I've been dealing with consumers for my entire career. I love understanding consumers and how they're going to act and react. And so just the data that comes off of it is totally fascinating to me. But what you're really looking for is how many times did they view, right? What's your view through? And then when did they buy? Because then that enables you to sort of build your content a bit differently. But the two keys to doing connected TV really have to know who your customer is. Down to every behavior that you could possibly find. And then second thing is you got to come up with some really great creative. And we tell people funny always wins because people remember funny and they want to interact with funny. Serious is a pain in the neck because everybody's serious all during the day. And when you look at places like Dr. Squatch, what they did, or Poo-Pourri, those things were funny and they're great, entertaining commercials. And people remember them, and they spend a ton of money on connected TV.
Well, when the results are that good and you have this game plan literally mapped out for them, people can be funny. Businesses can be when they're really pushed. And yes, people remember funny. People talk about that. That's what they think about. They watch it over and over. I can't tell you how many times I've watched a short video or a reel because it was just funny. And I'm like, I want to experience that multiple times. Your conversions go through, people are more highly engaged. It's just a winning strategy.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's fantastic. But Geico started on the insurance side. There's nothing more boring than insurance. Geico started it with the Gecko, right? And then Progressive jumped on it and said, hey, maybe we could be funny. And all of a sudden, Flo is like a star. It's amazing. And then you got the whatever, emu.
Yeah.
it's not as good. Now everybody's trying to do it, but they're
Right.
just as creative. But yeah, you can be creative with funny. So
Mhm.
those are the two keys to connected TV. Because once you have that, you don't care about placement. You don't say, well, I wanted to show on NBC during the football game. You don't care. What you care about is this is where Bob, who's my core customer, this is what my customer persona looks like. This is what he's watching on a Sunday at 1 o'clock.
Absolutely fascinating. I love it. Phil, where can people find out more about you and get connected with you online?
Yeah, you can go to philmasiello.com. You can go to crunchgrowth.com. You can find me on LinkedIn, Phil Masiello. You can find me on Facebook, Phil Masiello, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, all Phil Masiello.
I love it. And we'll have the links available down in the show notes and the description for everybody. Phil, we have one final question before we wrap up our episode. 2026 is coming. Is there anything that you're kind of working on behind the scenes, a new product you're launching, anything you're excited about, or are you kind of sticking with the course?
No, I'm excited about AI and the ability to do things with AI in terms of making things more efficient and getting more information and data back quicker. AI is definitely built into all the demand side platforms, all the programmatic, and it's just getting better, improving how we target. And so we don't exactly have a product, but we build some small agents to do work within our company. And I'm excited about learning about those because I love learning new stuff. But to me, I think that 2026 is going to be the year of connected TV for.
Very exciting. And I think it's going to be a big win for businesses out there just looking to find, some way to leverage the extra money that they have to reach a new audience or to better convert their current audience. So if you have interest, make sure you reach out to Phil here. He's going to get you connected with everything that you need to help you grow and scale your business as well. Phil, thanks again for coming on. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. It was a great conversation.
Absolutely. Same here.